go ahead and call the meeting to order. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? Is there any additions, corrections? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Also moved.
Moved by David. Second by Cale. All in favor? Motion passed. Consent agenda. Need permission for clerk to pay insurance at time of billing, permission for clerk to pay utilities at time of billing, permission for clerk to pay utility incentives before the 25th of the month, permission for clerk to pay theater bills when due, and permission for clerk to pay payment service network bills when due. Have a motion? So moved. Moved by Cale, seconded by Dara. All in favor? All right. Motion passed. Sheriff's report. Cody said he might be running late. He gave me his reports, so I think we'll just skip over and get to visitors and we can come back to him. Barb, you're up.
Do I just stay here?
You can stay.
Yes, I've never been here before. I remember when this was a bar. I just kind of have some concerns about the recycling center, and the guy that runs it, is his name, or not runs it, but kind of, breaks down things. Is that Dave? Is that his name? Billy Sport. Okay. I think he is doing an awesome job, but I feel so bad for him because I just think he is so totally overwhelmed. You walk in there sometimes and there is just stuff all over, and clearly people don't necessarily follow the signs. One time this past summer I was up there and there was an out-of-state car that was dropping some stuff off, which was fine, and I was just visiting with her a little bit, and I said, don't you guys have any recycling places in Colorado? And I don't even really know what she said, but anyway, I said, well, the city people have to pay a fee to use this and have it recycled. And I said, it isn't free. And she goes, oh, well, I didn't know that. And as I was leaving, they got out a big bag of styrofoam and dumped it right in the truck by the trashing and said, no styrofoam. And I know you can't turn people away because it's not monitored or it's not staffed or whatever. But I thought at one time when they first put that up that it was supposed to be from sunup until sundown. Does anybody know anything about that? Is there any, would that cut down on some of the riffraff stuff?
Probably more of the rummaging than anything. I mean, we do have a situation where in the morning sometimes there's problems there. And I wasn't at the last meeting. They discussed this once and was going to check with. Law enforcement has their own overwhelmingness thing, and we had gotten to the point where that didn't work out very well, and it just started being left open. But it does create problems. It is something that I would like for us to look at again.
Well, I just know that Bill guy the one day when I took some things in from the school, and the cardboard was just, a mountain of it. And he goes, yesterday when I left here, that was all broken down and crated up, and he got there in the morning, and here was this pile. So I don't know if people, and of course now it probably wouldn't be happening, this time of day, or this time of year, but, people bring things during the night from that, I don't know. But I feel so bad for him. Sometimes I just want to go up there and start sweeping. But, yeah, I don't know what the answer is, but I wish there'd be a way to close it at least during the night.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we go up there a lot. Notice. But the sign's right there.
Well, and he's done a really good job with showing what goes where and what not to put in stuff, and I really would hate to lose him because I think he's one of the best ones that's been up there since since I started recycling stuff. But, and then I have another concern, and it has to do with the trash service up at the school, and it's more during the warm weather probably than during the freezing part. But every time the trash service comes up there, our dumpster is in the back on cement, and they come in. I don't know if they could come in a different route or whatever, but we were just standing there watching them the other day when they came up there, and they squeezed it, and all this stuff came out of the truck and onto the concrete, and there used to be a football game that evening. I know Jason and JR, I don't know what your son's name is, but I know they've been up there several times. You know,
Justin and Wyatt, which is my nephew.
Yeah, I mean, cleaning up after it, you know, and I mean, there's glass, there's milk, there's food. I mean, it's horrible. And I don't know if there'd be a different route that they could take when they would squeeze it. It would be on dirt somehow. Do the hill people, are they the ones that figure out their routes? Or
No, we've changed it multiple different times, so there's enough there with the quantity that's there. In order to get it all on there, they have to cycle the truck. They then wait and go out around the backside to cycle it the second time, which I found out by Bus Barn is a problem. It's almost like it's a placement problem. I understand you guys want it close and accessible, but there's concrete in every direction, and there's really no way they can cycle that they can't cycle it right there when they're doing it. And I've been talking to Gary about that, about trying to figure out something that relocation is about the only thing we have.
Well, I know when we have our inspector that comes twice a year, he always kind of mentions that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that the trash receptacles are too close to them.
Yeah. See, if it could be on that end of the field over on the gravel, then I think it would be a non-issue. But again, I think it's a matter of balance between convenience and sanitation. So.
Okay, that's all I had.
Just understand on the recycle center, the main things you was concerned with was out-of-town users and dumping of trash, right? That was the primary thing. Okay. Very good.
No? Okay.
Thanks, Barb.
Lauren.
Yep.
Thank you. And then get back up to Cody because he's got to leave again, so.
Anybody in the audience want to? Okay. So the Sheriff's Office report, did 31 things in the Burke City area, 8 in Wheeler, 126 through the county, and 128 in St. Francis. What we particularly care for, like I said, try to always give you guys comparisons so you know where you guys fit into the call schedule. Mirage of just different things, and of course, you know, you have the things in there that are like the test calls and stuff like that that really aren't really anything important. They're just things that add up in the stats. But you can see there's quite a bit of different things. We're back into a I guess you call it trend. You know, we talked earlier about how things ever go in trend. If you look on, there's a lot of person crimes in October. Don't know why. It just comes and goes where we'll have a bunch of disturbances, and then we won't for a couple months, and then we will, and we won't. I don't know why it goes in that trend, but October was a month where we had quite a bit. You can see there's disturbance, fight, domestic disturbance, DUI, but just a lot of, person-type stuff, crimes. We've made a lot of arrests. In fact, our jail budget is way over at the county. But that's, to me, it's not a good thing, but it's a good thing that we're resolving the cases. we're getting a resolution to them. These are not unsolved cases. They're cases that there's a resolution, there was something filed in district court, something came about of them. They weren't just left hanging. So I guess if there's a good thing about being over budget, it means that we're finishing things to completion. And that's not our patrol budget, that is just the jail budget. We're fine patrol budget-wise. We've been hit pretty hard lately with COVID at the sheriff's office. We have 2 deputies right now who are positive that are on quarantine. They won't be working for the next, I think one of them's got a week left, the other one's got almost the full 2 weeks left of the quarantine. So that takes us to a total of 4 members of the sheriff's office who've had it since this began, which 2 are completely recovered. So that's really kind of hitting us hard. So that's, this to be expected. I kind of hope we would have spreaded that out over the months that this has been an issue for our country, but just so happened it hit us all at once, just like we talked about everything. So it's like once you get it, it seems to pass around. So far, everybody's healthy and good. We haven't had anybody get sick this round. So, but that's kind of where we're at right now with that, and that's really kind of hurting us. But we'll get through it. So, do you guys have any questions over that?
Well, full disclosure, I guess I owe you an apology because one of your 911 butt dials was my grandson.
Yeah.
I was watching him one day, and I just got off a phone call, and he grabbed my phone, and somehow or another he hit the emergency button.
Yeah, then that happens quite a bit. Even as people carry it in their pocket, and then somehow they activate their screen, and there's a little button down there that says emergency, and pushes it, and the dispatcher listens to 3 minutes of a conversation of somebody, buying milk at the grocery store. So it happens. So it's just part of the world we live in, technology nowadays. And just to throw it out there, as you guys discussed, we would be happy to help with the recycling center issue any way we can. We can't be consistent. I can't promise you that every night at 7 p.m. we'll go shut the doors. But if, we're patrolling out and it's after dark and we do see that they're open, if you ask us to, we will shut the doors. But I just have a problem promising reliability that we will do it every night at a certain time, every time. But we could be a double check, I guess we could say. The guys are out there. It might be 11 o'clock before they close the doors. It might be 7 o'clock when they close the door. But we'd be more than happy to help you with whatever solution you guys have for that. So.
Jared, do you remember when we did close it previously, when it was closed? It's been a while since we...
City PD is the last time we did, and it was quite a while before.
They had quit doing it.
They
but I
had
didn't know
quit doing
time-wise.
it was the inconsistency issue of it. We just started doing it.
And I don't remember if we had set times or...
We did. Yeah. And we had varied that at different times, but there was a 7:30 in the morning city crew open, and then the close time, I think, was Summit at one time was the time it was closing.
This time we closed it fairly early, if you're going to do.
Yeah.
After
We ran into problems, though, like on weekends where the on-call person doing the wells or whatever would have to go open the recycling. It would be at 8:30, 9 o'clock, and it was way too late for some people. And it really was. So I think that's how we're going to get it out. But it would be, maybe we can come up with a solution to cover it.
You guys have anything else?
Am I supposed to be looking for anything?
No, I think everything on there is in district court. So.
That's what I was going to say. I didn't see anything
No,
in the
I think
shared
everything...
between us.
Yep, I think everything
Because
on there...
I think the more serious things tend to go through district
Yeah.
rather than city, just so
Yeah.
they have a little more teeth. But I wanted
There's-
to make
there's-
sure I wasn't missing anything that I was supposed to be having.
No, there's going to be one that we have an arrest warrant for the person. Coincidentally, the arrest warrant is for something completely different, but when they are finally arrested, they will be one of these other items on the list, the resolution, one of those, and that will probably run through municipal court. But we've got to get custody of him and everything first before we do anything that way.
Gotcha. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing
Nope.
anything with
No,
all of these that we had on here.
no. If you go through there, I think most of them, like the domestics and the DUIs and the fighting and stuff like that, we'll run it to the district court, so.
All right, thank you.
At the last meeting, we talked about the room next door. Did you guys have time to get that stuff out of there? Do that building or whatever.
It sounds like an easy question.
I know.
Okay,
You're
there's
short-handed.
two different sections. The front part, I left some stuff that they wanted left, and then they wanted to move the moving thing. So if they're done, we could do whatever. Look, from the doorway from the bathroom back, that hallway, you know, we agreed to use that cell, and I was going to leave those lockers there with that. The thing that keeps slipping my mind, and I have to take full responsibility for slipping, I keep forgetting there's a room back there in the old dance hall, I guess is what I always call it, the old dance hall that we need to empty out. I kind of remembered that as we were cleaning up for the movie crew, and I was like, we got this whole evidence record room back there we need to clean out. So we'll get on that as soon as possible. We'll get them out. I'll probably come over and talk to Lila and see if she can get us access to go out the back door so we don't have to carry around all the stuff to go out and just go out straight out the back door, if that would be possible. Make that a lot easier, because I think most everything that's left in there is like file cabinets full of files and stuff like that, that, you know, you need carts and stuff like that, and get it out there. So, but as far as the front part, the office part, except for what we left so it didn't look empty for them when they filmed in there, which they ended up moving anyways, we're done. So, okay. So.
Are they done filming over there too?
I believe so. So I'll find out. I'll know by tomorrow morning. So.
Anything else? Not that I have a motion to accept and approve the sheriff's report. Gail? Second by Derek. All in favor? All right. Thanks, Cody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cody.
All right, we'll come back up. Tom, were you just here visiting, or did you have a concern?
I have a concern. I spoke with Dara about it earlier today, and I spoke with Lila. It originated when I was talking to Scott last week, Scott Schultz, about a place to have a meeting, and that we're going to have a meeting coming up. And he said that you can use council chambers, but he didn't know that there would not be a council member present at the meeting, because I'm speaking with relation to community foundation meetings. And so then he called me back to say he'd spoken with Lila and that we have to have someone from the city council present. Now, the issue is, you know, we don't have any place to have meetings in this town except for the library, and we want to have enough room for people to social distance if that's what they want to do. And our meeting that we'll have tomorrow that's scheduled for here is only 5 people, but this room is plenty big enough for 5 people so they can social distance if they so desire. The problem I have with the library is inconsistencies. The last meeting we had, I paid $10 out of my pocket for the library usage, and I paid $4 for 20 copies to be run off on the copying machine. Now, previously, when I had business in September where I needed 50 copies, Scott Schultz had sent me over to the library. They'll do them for nothing for the Motorcycle Museum by Timberfest, which the woman that's in there, she did happily, and there was no problem, no charge, nothing. Then I go there with a librarian there, and it's $4. And I said, well, previously it had been free. Well, that was advertising for the motorcycle rally. This isn't advertising. Well, it was for the foundation, community foundation. So I don't know how they determined the difference, but I wasn't impressed by it. And I took the money out of my pocket to pay for this stuff. And, you know, I'm volunteering my time. It's for a nonprofit. It's for a nonprofit that contributes to the library. And we go through this issue with them. We can't seem to have a meeting here. I spoke with Carla Schultz this afternoon about it. And I asked her, do you remember when you were on the council when this rule originated? She says, no, I don't. But it was there when I was there, too. She says, maybe it's time for it to be re-examined. Because we do need meeting space in this town. We don't have the luxury that Bird City does of the Legion Hall or anything else like that for meetings, which gets utilized a lot. And I think it should be looked at. And I don't like inconsistencies like this either.
So I can tell you what the policy is that that he's referring to, that we've had since I've been here and probably before. The policy has always been that if there is a mayor-appointed person on the board or the committee, like the pool board, the roadside park board, the internet committee had JR appointed, but they were mayor-appointed people. If they have one of those on that committee, then they could use the council chambers. That was what we'd always done. If the person that's appointed, like say JR, I'll just use as an example, the internet committee that used to meet here, if JR was unable to be there, they could still use it, but it had to be during business hours. And the whole reason for that is security of City Hall. We have to make sure that it's secure. And so during the day, I'm here. After hours, it's the council person that would be ultimately responsible for the security of the building. And that's the reason behind it. So that's the policy that's been in place.
When I spoke with you earlier today, I said it would be during business hours. We have the meeting. It starts at 3:30.
You don't have, at that time, you did not have a council-appointed person on your
But
committee.
you just said it didn't have to be a council appointed.
No.
During business hours.
Somebody on the council has to be on the committee. Now, if that committee, for some reason, they're meeting and that person can't be there, then yes, that's the exception. But your committee doesn't have a council-appointed person.
Not this particular committee. Then.
Right. That's my point. That's what I'm saying. Now, Dara is the council's appointment to the community foundation. But this morning, she wasn't part of this committee. But
No,
now,
Yeah, and then Tom called, asked if I could be there, just so there was a city.
but you're not part of that committee.
I'm on the foundation, but not the subcommittee. So, and I said, and I do have a meeting at 3:30 tomorrow also, so I would be a little bit late if it's like a half-hour meeting probably, 45
Yeah, no,
minutes. But, yeah, I
Carla
can still come
said
in.
she thought you must have forgotten
No,
about
no.
it.
No, I remembered when I looked at my calendar then. Yes. So, but,
And that's a variation of the policy that was in place because it was appointed by the council or the mayor. Whether you change that or not is not relevant to what I'm saying. I'm just clarifying what the standing policy has been. The mayor appoints this individual to this group which has some interest or something to do with the city, and that allows this to be used. So it remains an offensive.
Is the policy written? It's an unwritten policy. Could be written.
Any thoughts, comments?
Somebody has to be responsible for security of the building. So if you open it up to just anybody, then that will basically fall on me, as it did with the film crew being here.
Part of that was that it was city-related to a city interest.
Yes.
That was part of that,
Yes.
the logic, whether it's to stand or not.
Yeah.
So during business hours, it would seem to make sense that it would require that. It wouldn't have to.
The gist of it is to keep it city-related, so it's and I know this isn't, but non-political or something that's going down something that the city does not, even run on their property. It has to do with just keeping it short and sweet. Council or mayor appoints, which allows then that group, it must be city-related.
Was that put in place because of the allowed for this group?
That's exactly what it was. It's
Stop.
the can of worms thing. That's exactly what it was, and that's why it was shortened up. There was request as soon as we did this council chambers. In fact, I guess I'm the only one here that we used to meet at the library before it was here, and immediately there was a lot of requests, and it came up right away. So this has been in place for 3.5 years, 19 years.
And the library's not big enough for 5 people to meet at?
It's big enough. But, I just, like I said, I was not impressed by inconsistencies I encountered with the library. especially with copying things off. I mean, what is it, cronyism, or what is it? Scott can get stuff printed over there for free, and the foundation can't?
I don't know what they're.
Well, I'm just recounting what happened.
That would be the,
And they have their own board, the library does, and so I don't,
And- But it's listed under the city offices or departments or whatever.
And governed by the
Website.
appointed board.
Huh?
And governed by the appointed board that's put in place by the city council. Their policies, if you have any issue with those, you go to that board.
Who's on the board?
the library board.
Yes.
Probably don't.
I don't even know what it was.
There's a bunch. I can go get the list. I don't have it here handy, but I can go get it if you want to know.
I think that would be, I mean, do we know when they meet? Do we know, I mean, I think that.
They're their own entity, basically. We just give them the tax funding, and they are...
Right, but I mean, as they are under us, I mean, I think that we should at least be able to provide Mr. Roberts with the name of someone for whom to contact,
Oh,
or
sure.
or the time they meet, or
Absolutely.
something, since he is here with us and they're under the umbrella of the city.
Karen Knight's on there, I don't know if she's on there. She's off.
But I still think it needs to be addressed, as to what usage this can be used for, given the problems that we have in town with meeting space.
And hopefully, 202 will be
Would
cool with that.
Mr. Paul and Pete would still be available?
Possibly,
I don't even know how big it is. Is it just, it's that overflow, what they use for the overflow, right?
Right. But then it would have to have somebody too to lock it up then afterwards.
But Carol's
It's the same
there.
type of thing.
Is Carol still there?
She is, but she's usually there till 5.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying during the day, yeah.
Right.
But
Well, the library gives you a key. They want you to use that north door. They give you a key. So apparently they trust people enough.
yeah.
I know, Gail, you've had meetings down there at your place, but, for a small meeting like ours, I don't know if anybody would buy anything. I remember the strategic doing meeting, I don't know what you get out of there at midnight or something that night.
Yeah, something like that.
And, I don't know if it was profitable for you in any way at all. And I just feel that city property should be put forth first before relying on private businesses.
Yeah, if it's community-based, it would make more sense. Yeah. I like the library idea. And you guys would probably just have to work out your own deal with printing. Something.
Well, we don't have a printer. You can't get into the banks right now.
Oh, I know.
Them to print out anything. It just makes it difficult.
Yeah. But they've given you a key, it's pretty nice. It's handy.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And I know they ask for a fee, but I think it's as much just to cover utilities,
Yeah.
that type of thing. But, I don't know that there's anywhere right now that.
Yeah, you think one.
I know the bank used to have our community room, but it was the same type of thing. If
Yeah.
it was after hours, the bank employee had to stay because it was locked up,
Yep.
and that type of thing. And I don't know if they charge,
I said it was $25, I think.
yeah.
School, something like school, maybe.
Thank you.
But wouldn't it be in favor of changing what we have on the books now? Just for the fact that the surface look.
Anything else, Tom?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep. Pam, you're up.
Here was the food pantry, and I know it seems like we're always begging for money, and yeah, we are. And right now, where we're starting out, we don't know where our utilities are going to run. And that's why I'm here, is if, as a nonprofit, we can get any kind of break on our utilities. And like I said, we're just starting. We don't have any idea how much they're going to run us. But I know with sewer and trash and water and electricity, even just the minimums is going to be ballpark probably $50 to $60 a month. It doesn't seem like a lot, but we've also got insurance that we have to pay, and all this stuff from being removed from the courthouse. So we're just kind of asking if there's anything we can do with the utilities.
We have not in the past offered that to nonprofits. I would say if you did, it would have, I don't know, it'd have to be across the board with any.
How are you funded? I understand you have limited funds. How are you funded?
It's all donation.
It is
Yeah,
donation.
it is all donation.
Now, right now, you guys are getting all of your food paid for.
Right, but then and we're kind of looking into the future. I'm kind of the type that I like to look ahead and have, stuff in place so that when the food grant goes out, that was awesome. I mean, I'm so glad we got that. I thank you guys for doing whatever you had to do to get it. But when that runs out and we have to do everything, we could get into trouble. And we didn't know if you had any breaks for a nonprofit, and when we talked, it was like, we're not going to know unless we come and talk to you.
Help me understand. Is it the new location? Is it at your residence or?
No, it is the co-coordinator at the Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous building. And we've redone that so that it will meet our needs. And through donations, we've got the big end of the renovation paid for. And like I say, the food from now till March, we pretty much got covered. But I'm looking into the future. And,
Are the utilities going to stay in Zona's name, or will they?
and that was another thing. They can't, we can put them into the pantries, and I think we should for our, so that everything, we know as a board, everything is being done like it should. But like I said, we didn't know if there was anything, and we wouldn't have known until we asked. So.
Is that building only the food pantry?
Yes. It is connected to her storage bin. She's got some RV storage there. But it's just like the wall. I mean, there's no connect. You can't go from one to the other inside.
There's no power drawing equipment?
No. There's nothing. There's not even electricity in the storage. And, I'm hoping it won't be outrageous, but we aren't going to know until, tomorrow's our actually first night of distribution there. So, we're just kind of getting started with it being our spot.
So it's like refrigeration?
Yeah, that's going to be our major thing, because there's 4 freezers and a 2-door refrigerator. But that, lights a couple days a week or a couple days a month.
That could work, but it's commercial, isn't it? Isn't it a commercial refrigerator?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I don't know if that's required.
We've had similar requests. I think we had requests like this from the museum maybe last year. Do you remember that? We have had similar requests in the past.
Seems you could separate out what the nonprofit does.
And I get them enough.
Yeah,
But
the
it's
slippery
food for
slope
people in
there.
need.
I know.
You'd think it'd be something, but it's not like it's a museum where it's just recreation.
you know, even if it wasn't a total pass,
Don't
if
get
it was,
causes or cause of community cause things for their
They
funds.
do.
Wouldn't that be
pardon me?
something? The thrift store, they do funding on individual levels and certain things. I mean, that might be something. I mean, I know the city can't unless they decide to go across the
Right,
board.
right, I understand
But that might
that.
be a resource to talk to.
I had never thought about that.
That's an excellent idea.
We're
Because
also
they do
gonna,
have,
we're also gonna go to the commissioners since they're the ones that kicked us out and see if they'll kick anything.
What was that about? Was it space or?
Conflict between, one of the,
Oh, it was personal.
yeah.
Never mind.
Well, that's what started it.
Okay.
But they've tried, I've talked to several of them, and through the years, about every 2 to 4 years, they try. So, you know, we just were to the point that, let's just do it and be done with it. So, okay, I appreciate your time, and like I said, what, you know.
Thank you guys for the work you're doing.
Yeah.
It's good work.
Okay. Thanks, Sam. Thanks.
Have a good one.
You too.
Ellen, I think Lila, did you send out a copy of the revised brochure?
Yeah.
And wanted to know if you wanted to make any more changes. I won't say additions because I don't think we have a lot of room.
Looks like the weather should be there.
I thought you said orange last time.
Well, I did.
Or orange.
pretty. It's a pretty brochure.
You good, Cal? Thank you, Helen.
Didn't know you were waiting on me. I thought you already said this.
I will go ahead and order these, and the process is they want to be paid before they do the printing. If you want, CCDC can do that, and then be reimbursed for you guys, or however you want to do it. I just know that they want to be paid before they goes to print.
How much is it? I don't remember.
It's under $2,000.
If you want the city to pay it, we need a motion to pay it out of cycle, because tonight was our cycle and it's not in there. Otherwise, it'd be another month before we could pay it.
So I'll move. Let's pay it.
Okay.
Does that exceed 2,000?
Yeah, we've talked about it, we know what it is.
I just know what it is.
Okay.
But it's definitely less than that, so.
Okay, moved by
okay.
Gail, second by David, all in favor?
If you can just give me an invoice. we can
All
do
right, I'll
that.
have them send you an invoice. Just a couple other things. The CCDC is keeping their initials, but we've officially changed the name, and it's gone through the state and sent to the IRS to be the Cheyenne Community Development Corporation. And we're hoping with this change that we can apply to the IRS for the fourth time to see if we can get a 501c3 designation. So I thought that's going to work. And then through the Department of Commerce, there's a Kansas Business Development for the Northwest region, and there's a new person, Chris Frederick, and he stopped by my office. I'll just pass those around. These are just incentives mostly for non-retail businesses. The state doesn't have anything really for retail businesses. CREDA, the Western Kansas Rural Economic Development Council, is still trying to get the state to reenact the sales tax incentive that they had, so the businesses were building. They wouldn't have to pay taxes on the materials, but we haven't been able to do that. And if there is a site near St. Francis or within the city, which I don't think you have 10 acres or more, that could be developed, they do have a certified site program that I could work on to do that. And also, the Ultimate Guide will be here on Thursday. I'm going to take it up, so I'll have those to distribute. And up at the Welcome Center, we've usually gone around 400 brochures a month, and last month we did 511. So people are obviously traveling. And I don't have anything else except for, I'm not sure where this is going, but I was asked to do welcome packets because the Methodist Church wasn't doing them. So I have what we put together here if you guys want to look at it. And I don't know how to distribute it. I guess that remains to be seen. I did call the person and asked me how they distributed it. She said she didn't know. Told me to call somebody else who I haven't got a hold of. So anyway, we have welcome packets if you know anybody's new in town. But I don't know.
I don't know how they do. Did you talk to Lee Keller?
I got my welcome packet last year, and I've been here since 2015. I'm going to be in my office.
Well, and they've changed.
It was really funny.
Yeah, Lee isn't doing it anymore.
But I know she
Vicki Schlepp apparently was the last person that did it, and I don't know how to get a hold of her. So I don't know if we were with the Privacy Act, I don't know if you can contact somebody. I know the city isn't going to give me the names of the people that are moving in. I don't know if the churches would want to do this, but then there's people that go to church, you're going to miss somebody. And but anyway, I did 25 of them, all subject to change. I do have a business list of, I'm going to say the majority of businesses in the county, but I don't print it off because that changes all the time, and I'm sure something happened yesterday and changed it since I updated it. But
You do have a business list?
of course I have a business list. And my interns update it once a year. But, anyway. So I don't know for
With
sure
the,
what to do with that. I made 25 of them.
realtors, hand them out, or
They might, but, that's only if somebody's buying something. If somebody's renting something, it may not go through them. So, I don't know.
I don't want to, I guess, put additional work on our city employees, but I mean, if they were already compiled and they were available, if someone new moved to town and came in.
We could just hand.
Right, that's
If
what I'm
that's what-
thinking.
If that's
Is
what
they come
want.
in to register
The
utilities in
first
their
utility.
name.
Yeah,
I mean, if they're already put together and
Mhm.
just there and available, if they come in to change the utilities into their name and we
They're a
find
new
out if they're a
customer.
new,
right.
they're new to the area, they get a welcome packet. And then
We can absolutely do that. The only thing that was, I can hand a packet to somebody.
Right.
The only thing that had been relayed to me initially with this was that somebody wanted to make a personal visit to these
Right.
and welcome them to the community.
Would a
And that-
collaborative effort with multiple
have a word
churches
against-
be
something
beneficial to
against
you,
the
or
word
would it be a
welcome?
headache to you?
I'm not going to go to
I
somebody's home.
don't, I don't know, but all I did was put the package together because somebody asked me to do it. There's also a self-addressed stamped envelope in here, you know, saying, welcome to Cheyenne County, and the envelope is in there because we'd like to know why they moved here. And so if they return that, then we could
Because I
talk
know the
further.
chamber used to do it back when, and they go around and they'd ask businesses too to,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
give things, whether it was a pen, a,
Mhm.
you know, a
Yeah.
notepad, whatever.
Right.
Mhm. So this is strictly information. There's
Right.
no goodies in here.
Right, right.
So the person that was here to talk to you guys about it, that was supposed to be Elmer, but it turned out to be somebody else.
Bill Duncan, yeah.
Mhm. And
They were
Elmer gave
visualizing
me
something more than this.
he gave me the calendars from the Lions Club and
And that's what Bill
brochures
was
from there.
wanting to know about welcome packets and giving people a calendar.
Uh-huh. So he gave me calendars. So anyway, Lila, would you like to have one of these? Welcome.
Thank you.
And,
I've only been here 20 years, but thank you. No, actually, we got a very nice welcome packet when we moved here.
Yeah.
And I think it was Tally's father-in-law that brought it to us.
Yeah.
It's very
You
nice.
know, the Methodist Church used to give cookies out too, just saying, Lila, have some cookies
No.
ready here.
You could put an oven back here and then.
Gail,
when
you
one
guys
person comes
bake
in,
down there.
You could start baking.
So anyway, you know, I just wanted to know that we have those, and I didn't want to make more than 25 because things change, and when your brochure comes, we need to stuff those in there. And
So is that something that if the council wants us to hand them out, that we could just work together to do?
Yeah, because if there's events going on, a lot of times my office gets a call, and they want a packet of information anyway. So, and I've got all the brochures, so we're good, you know.
I think for now, we can try it and see how.
We wouldn't get new people out in the county, but we'd at least get new ones in town.
Yeah.
Anybody that comes in and gets utilities.
Okay, well, I will get them to you and update them as things happen. We'll see you later. Thank you. Unless you have something else.
No, appreciate all that you do for us.
All right,
Lily.
thank you.
Thanks, Ellen.
Thanks.
Property cleanup.
So,
Did
they
you
have
get my
their day
emails
in
to-
court. I did. I have had contact. I'd provided Lauren with a list of things in reference to the property. They then had their day in court apparently where those list of items was provided to them. I'd contacted them based on a building permit and made initial contact as to what they were doing. Of course, on this list, one of the many items was to paint the property, or, you know, it was in disrepair, general disrepair and painting, and of course that's something you can't do in too cool weather, which is fine. The gist of these things is always to get the property up to compliance, not to spend time in court and fines and that sort of thing. However, we have to have that process to get these things done. To this point, I'd say there's reasonable progress. We'll just have to see how it's going and communicate back with Lauren as to that next court date.
We set a bench trial for city court in December 15th. Like JR said, obviously, we don't expect them to paint their property in 40-degree weather. We set that for trial to kind of keep the matter moving with the understanding communicated to the city judge, Keller, that we may be continuing this if progress is being made, because as JR stated, we are wanting to ensure that, you know, the goal is to get it cleaned up. It's not to put it in court. And so we are, I guess, planning on continuing it if sufficient progress is being made. And I sent JR an email today stating that I'll need to know that by, I think it's the 6th or 7th of December, so I have time to file a continuance and get that served, if we're going to be continuing it. Otherwise, it is set for bench trial in December if there's just no additional progress made. And then there was one other property that we had an issue with getting served. Someone signed for it. The letter that I was getting, that I had to have served for the other property, they are not in Kansas, they are in Colorado. It was served on the 7th is when it was signed for, and so they have 15 days to bring the property up to compliance, or 10 days to request a meeting in front of the council. I've asked JR if on the 23rd or 24th he would take a drive by the property and see if it's been fixed up, and if it has not been, then I will get pleadings going to serve via certified mail for the December court date. Again, there's no way we're going to make the November court date.
As it would relate to these properties, once we do get them in action, I would advise you to take a look at them if you're going by. I mean, ultimately, it's the council that says, let's go ahead and pick these properties and do that. I have no problem saying when it's in compliance or whether progress is good enough, but input's always welcome on these. It's always...
We're talking the Swigert property.
Yeah, on Webster.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the other one?
Paulson, that would be on Whittier?
Yeah.
Whittier? Yeah. And that one I wouldn't expect any... Well, I don't know.
What's
I guess
the
just
first property?
something to keep an eye on. Go on.
Swigert.
O'Brien?
Yeah.
509, I think, is the address.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Right.
Yeah. They're getting a fence up. I mean, basically, there's a tremendous amount of debris. The windows were boarded up. They've done quite a bit. They've got the electrical up to code. That was one of the primary things that had me concerned is, well, aside many things, but that was actually a safety issue for anybody with it not being a fenced area. So that one has been addressed, and like I say, a fence is going up. Far too much property still on the property. Part of that is we don't go around looking over fences because we cannot. If it's out of sight, out of mind, unless it's spilling over or you have a neighbor complain, we try not to do that. But we want them to remove as much as possible for fire hazard, just general aesthetics. It's just, if it doesn't need to be there, why are they storing it there, kind of thing. So it gets kind of into a thing of where it is within the area of town too. And you get some kickback for how that's treated. But if you take a house up on where the newer part of towns are, the 60s houses, and it's just completely trashed. It's totally different than being in a line of houses where they're not well kept or whatever. And it really is. I mean, it's being a blight on the neighborhood. It depends on how it fits in to some degree. That doesn't mean you can have 5 minutes of junk, but it is based on the surrounding area as well.
While we're on property cleanup, it's not anything pending, but the corner of Jackson and Quincy, there's been a building torn down and a concrete pad put there.
Oh, yes. It's got a permit.
Okay, right, but my concern is more for the number, really the lack of visibility going into that intersection.
Welcome.
This is nothing new.
Right.
We have had the sheriff's department, police department go there multiple times, whereby which sometimes things will shrink up a little bit for a while and then it spills back over. Obviously, with the construction, maybe it's more, maybe it's less, maybe it's just more noticeable. But there is not a problem sending Cody over to express that concern, especially when it's a safety concern for that. So, do you want me to do that, or do you want to?
I mean, yeah, if you want to let him know.
Have you been by there lately?
I have not. I mean, I was over there when they were lining up.
You should drive by.
Is it going out again?
Be sure you go down Quincy so you can see what's on the city street with no wheels.
Well, and the other concern is that when there are multiple vehicles parked, not even at a diagonal, but just straight in, it makes it very difficult to see potentially oncoming traffic from any direction, and so it's relative. I mean, on a personal note, I have just learned to navigate and go up Scott instead of going up Quincy, just because I've been almost run into 4 times because no one can see what's going on, and you can only stop and go and stop and go and stop and go so many times before you're already in the middle of the intersection.
Well, and just when you think you're clear to back something out of one of their areas right between vehicles, so it is an extremely busy, can be problematic area. But he's responded each time to a minimal amount. I mean, it may be something we have to press further at some point.
The whole backing out thing is what got me almost one day.
The backing out one?
Well, and it wasn't even out that. They were taking something off of a trailer. And backing it off of that, and didn't even notice I was coming around, and
It just seems to be one, an eyesore, and two, and more importantly, a safety concern. And so if Cody wanted, I mean, if we wanted to send Cody over there, I don't think we'd be out of line. And I don't know if it's more noticeable now because there's not a building there, but it is.
Yeah. His gist of getting the building permit was he was going to put a lot of this stuff inside because what was there was sheds and this is supposed to be a shop. Now, that was the word
Right.
said. If that's not done, I think we can certainly go back to him with, you got the permit based on trying to address some of the issues that have come up with the city. Do it. So we can pass that on to Cody, and I can go with Cody, whichever, because that was a conversation I actually had with Kelly when he applied for the permit, that he was trying to put more of his property on his property.
Yeah, the city streets have become a storage location for junk vehicles. And I get complaints all the time about it. And it just keeps happening. So.
And at some point,
And maybe that building will move all that in.
it'd be nice to see that. I mean, it really would, but at some point, it's not able to store those inoperable vehicles on the street, and if the city wants to press it, we have the ordinances to go there.
You can see down that hall, right?
What?
Just heard the door slam.
I did a little bit ago. Before just now.
It might be, is it wind?
I heard it a little bit ago. I wondered why nobody else was looking up the hallway.
I didn't hear it.
I mean, I always assume that you can see right down there if anybody were to go into that
Yeah,
part
no.
of the building.
I haven't seen anybody come in, but.
yeah, try being that church over there.
Yeah, I know, those poor people.
I don't know,
Surrounded by
that
all
pastor
trash
is a
all
real
day.
good-looking guy from what I hear, but he gotta have the patience of Job.
It must be your movie crew or something. I don't see anything anywhere.
No, they're not here anymore. I
Aren't they?
promise.
Well, they're in town.
Well, yeah.
Still in town. Yeah. No. See nothing. And I heard the door a little bit ago. Nobody else looked.
Ghosts.
But it's not even breezy out.
Oh. Anything else on forever cleanup? No. Projects pending.
I have real quick, do you guys want me to add the band shell grants to the projects pending, so it's kind of always on
Yeah.
my mind?
So we don't miss it. Anything? Anybody?
Is there a status update on the dog park?
No, so on the dog park and on the Veterans Memorial, I guess Bob Ogden and I went to the commissioner meeting, the last one. And after visiting with them, which they were tentatively okay with us moving forward with my further approval once we would determine a spot in the park if we would go that route. Bob, however, thought that he kind of liked that at the Rosebank Park. So he went up that morning and flagged it, so if you guys want to drive by. The problem is there's two sets of flags, one for the dog park and one for the Veterans Memorial. So you've got the bathrooms there right on the highway and the picnic shelter, and the flag's right in between. He's got it marked out where the sidewalk will be, and then it will be a square structure as opposed to the hexagon. And that way, picnic shelter's square, the bathhouse is square, it would all kind of tie in line. And then the flags closest up by the highway would be where they are proposing the dog park. So you guys can take a look and see what you thought there, but he kind of liked that up there. And
Were you going to mention that other piece of property?
I wanted to visit with JR about it first and kind of fill you in on, I have not got a chance to visit with him.
On your projects pending, would the band shell shade,
Structure?
the sales, would that fall under project?
It's on there.
Yeah, I was going to say,
It's been on there forever.
yeah, because it's a big project and it's an expensive one.
And also, do we have any follow-up from last month on the Veterans Memorial? The Sawmill? Do we ever decide what we're going to do on that?
I don't, have you,
On what?
on the veterans, about putting it in the park, did Scott
So
ever hear
there
that?
was a response, if that wasn't related to you, from we worked with Greg Pike, saying it would need to be reviewed by the historical registry if we decided we wanted to, and it, could easily be rejected because it has to tie in with the Sawdell Park. It was pretty specific in the letter. Did you guys see that letter? So I think, in my opinion, it kind of gave the impression, not so much.
They force our hand to put it up on the highway.
Yes, I think that's kind of what it said, because at one time I tried to get the benches around the outside, which are more like rock piles. I wanted them removed just because you can't sit on them. They're non-functional. They found them to be part of the historical significance of the park. And at that time, they took it from the band shell to the whole park, including the pillars in the southwest corner. And it was part of the relationship decline with that, just for the simple fact it was pointed out it's our park. Or, not to make it too bad of a deal, but yeah, they protect everything on there and dictate what goes in there.
I think that they're more receptive to it going up there.
Yeah.
I think we even talked, we could even rename it to the roadside park, we could rename it.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't like it down here off to the side because it doesn't, it just deserves more than that. Scene.
Yeah. Anyways, let's figure out how to take a look at the two sets of flags. As far as the dog parking, there's Tom, like I talked to him, was looking at pricing as far as Kurt has, so. Anything else? Project.
So we should have our engineer at the next meeting with the final plans. We've been working on bits and pieces of it to finish it up, to propose to the council. It's just the final design. I hope to get that 2 or 3 days to review it. Obvious areas of concern or drainage areas, timing of construction. Making sure we get it right. That's why we have an engineer. So we should have that information at the next meeting.
Theater report?
I was on town last week, so I did not make it.
And neither did I, because I was here with the film crew. I did not see any minutes, so I don't have an update. I'm not sure what transpired.
In reference to the theater, we now have a proposal from an architect. I don't know if I relayed that in a couple meetings since I've been here. I don't know if skip to, but if I didn't relay that, I do have a pricing and breakdown for architectural services for a master plan for that, whereby which we can then hopefully apply for grant funding. However, with such a large dollar figure, I wanted to discuss with at least the theater president and or the mayor, have a discussion about that cost.
Unless it's, well, if anybody calls in.
No?
Hi there. My name is Carl. I was calling on a recorded line on behalf of...
No?
Jen, to get her personal phone calls at home.
Oh my goodness.
To get the right name. Somebody that works here.
So anyway, in reference to the theater, we do have that it's been a long time coming, met with that architect. We do have all of that in place of what it would cost, but like I said, it's a significant enough cost. I don't want to just throw it out there and post it about it way too much. Part of that is to find out whether that would give us the ability to secure funding to do the improvements. That might make the difference. So I'm looking for a little more context with that before we present that in a public meeting.
Building permits.
On the chair.
You said Killer Lincoln didn't have a building permit for his.
Well, so this thing did double-sided for one thing. There it is. It's on page 7. No, wait. Kelly? No, he's already gotten his.
That was the one.
Yeah, that's been approved quite a while back. Pretty sure. Let me go check real quick.
Okay.
Well, it was only supposed to be 4, but, so I've got 10, but there's only supposed to be 5, because I double-sided it.
Yeah,
What is so
it was part of that discussion, we'll get it on file, if we can get it, but I was well aware they were putting something back, because that's why they were taking it.
The region, like, to see that one.
Because it's the same document.
That's a little long shed,
Uh-huh.
and then another one that he had. So,
Well, let's try to make sure we actually do it one for the construction.
I think everybody else.
What was the name on the, was that Infield?
It's like a blowfish.
There's a lot of pages.
10.
Yeah, sorry.
Is that east or west side?
Yeah, it's close.
What's the address again? Seems like I came across that, 230 Birch.
I'm sorry, I don't ever recall seeing.
And it's just patio cover, basically. I know it's the property I was thinking of, but
Because they tend to roof out and pour like concrete. And it's pretty nice.
Who is this?
Tommy Gosler, 230 Birch.
That sounds familiar. I think that there's a building permit for that, isn't there?
I don't recall seeing.
There was something for Connie that came through. Pretty sure, but I'd have to search my minutes. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to load my minutes on here so I can do a quick search when this stuff comes up, because right now I don't have
When
them.
we were up there, can you remember when we were doing that alley? I'm like, I don't remember seeing that. The building really first. I usually get a whole long list and then I call JR and then he's fully permitted to have made it here when I'm out and about.
I can look.
And maybe it's the meeting that's gone.
Could be.
You know it's in a.
I do.
So I'm like, yeah.
I'll look.
That's key.
Well,
That's the first one.
I try to, yes. It's not to say I might have missed one.
you could jump ahead and give me about 10 minutes. I need to go downstairs. It's completed. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be right back just a quick.
Do you have any questions on anything yet?
Is there a motion to approve the building permits?
So,
Moved by David. Second by Sarah. All in favor? Well, I guess we should have superintendent report. Attorney report.
I'd like to start off by requesting 15 minutes of executive session for prospective pending litigation that is subject to attorney-client privilege. I also, ordinance 625 is out there on the Google Drive for you. I have made the changes discussed last time. Direct your attention to that ordinance. The changes, we are putting it in Chapter 4 instead of Chapter 16, therefore under Article 2. It's being added in at 4-202A, so after the adoption of the Uniform Construction Code, and then we have added subsection C, which states that secondary, ancillary, and additional buildings at the same address as a residence, commercial, business, or other building shall be exempt from the requirements of this section, meaning that only one building at each address needs to bear the visible numbering. And that was what was discussed previously. Just any questions on that?
Can we format it? Can we format so that it just ends up on the same page. Like sorting the header.
Yeah, that's fine. I can adjust the margins or,
Yeah.
yeah. I can resend that to you with that. This is just always the format that Mike had used.
Yeah.
And so for consistency, yeah, I can shrink it down. That's not a problem.
It'd be nice if it was just on one page.
Does the council have any?
To approve.
Yes,
Moved by Gale, second by Barrett.
And, yeah.
David? Gale?
Yes.
Barrett? Motion passed.
Okay. I will call your attention next to ordinance 626, which I had been working on. Lila and I had some conversation with. I had sent it to her today, so it is not quite done yet. We will need to revise. Background checks are going to be required for all applicants, residents and non-residents. Correct? And so then the only distinction between a non-resident and a resident is going to be the fee. $100 for a non-resident plus the $25 background check, and $75 for a resident plus the $25 background check.
The background check was part of that. So it was 75, which included the background check, and 100, which included the background check. Right?
Right.
So the maximum was 100?
Okay.
Says you have to make my money is, but when you said the first, I thought, yeah, that sounds right.
Well, that's what I had, what we discussed last time, 75. I mean, I have it in my notes from what was discussed last time, 75 a year plus $25 background fee. So it's $75, so it's 50, the background fee is its own section in the code. So the license fee is 50 for residents, 75 for non-resident, and then $25 check for everyone. Okay. And then I am putting that the licenses are expiring on December 31st at 11:59 p.m. on December 31st every year, and that it's these fees for the year or any portion thereof, or $10 a day for each day for any portion thereof, plus the background check. Right. Okay. So, with that being said, 5-104 discusses issuance of the license for county residents, and then 5-105 deals with investigation and issuance for non-county residents. Those don't need to be separated anymore, correct? Because the issuance for both county residents and non-county residents, the requirements are the same. You have to pay the background, you have to pay for a background fee. If it's approved, then you pay the licensing fee, and then you get a license. So for 104 and 105 could be combined because there's no distinction, because the fees are talked about in section 107. So 107 would make the distinction between non-residents and residents because that's where the fee section is. But 104 and 105 could be combined. Is that correct? Okay. Take another stab at this and have another draft ready for the next meeting. I'm not sure why I'm missing the communication on what is, I just thought it was 75 plus the 25 background and then 100 plus the 25 background. So, I don't know why I thought that, but that's what my notes said. So I will revise, we'll combine those sections.
And we have 2 meetings on this, so I'm wondering if it was, what you remember was conflated between the two, because I think that's what I did.
Okay.
Because
Well, I mean, we'll get it in place before December, and we'll get it in place before December. And we'll
I think the first meeting, we had kind of come to agreement on that first number that Warren mentioned, and then I think the second meeting, I think you found something, Lila, and you read it to us, and then Larry was here, and he said, yeah, that's what it was meaning. I think that's what we went. Am I right? Does that sound right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I will get that revised and get it resubmitted to Lila in advance. I was hoping to get to her last week. I had an issue come up on another case, but I will get this to Lila hopefully a week or so before the next meeting, and we'll see if that's what we understand the council's desire to be, and hopefully get it submitted to the council for approval at the next meeting. As ordinance 625 has passed, we still need the mayor's signature on that. Do I need to, I think if we get it to the paper tonight, we can get it in this week's publication, but because the mayor hasn't actually signed it yet, do we need to wait and run it next week's publication?
And I'm going to say either one would be all right, because we can't even put the letters out until the bills go out, which is going to be the week of Thanksgiving. So if you wanted to kind of coordinate, we could. I would say we should even wait a week and put it in next week's paper.
Okay, as it's not signed,
and I'm going to run it by the mayor and have him sign it. I know he's quarantined, but he can come out with his mask and sign it. This is what I had him do before, so yeah.
Okay.
But let's hold off publication until next week's paper, and then everything will flow.
Okay. Would you let me know, would you shoot me an email when he has signed it, and then I will send it to the paper once it has been signed? Because I'm going to add an electronic signature on the version I send, which is the /s/, and I don't want to add that until it has actually been signed.
I will
so I will do that and add his signature and your signature once I receive confirmation that it has been signed.
Yep.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then, yeah, I just have what I'm suggesting, 15 minutes, or requesting 15 minutes executive session for, and I would like JR to be present, and I don't see why not Lila. I mean, she may have information on it. This is the matter that you and I had previously talked about, but I don't want to, yeah, it needs to be in executive session for attorney-client privilege. Yep, that's all I have.
All right, then your motion to accept and file the attorney report. Moved by Kale, second by David, all in favor? Clerk report.
Okay. So I just need clarification. Do you want that committee to be able to meet here tomorrow or no? I don't know if you talked about that when I was out of here, where there's not really, that committee's like a subset of the,
There's no foundation members, it's just part of,
right.
they're all foundation members on this committee, and it's a subcommittee of foundation, which on that committee.
What time were they?
So they were just asking, that's why he called me today, because he still wanted to have the meeting here with them.
If we're not going to change our criteria, it doesn't really meet the criteria.
What time is the meeting?
3:30. 3:30 to 5. But
I
again,
don't see a problem with this during business hours.
Just then you just open it up for anybody that wants to meet. And
What is the subcommittee? I guess, is there a distinction? I mean, to Tom's point, they provide a lot of funding for a lot of city things in the grant process. And if we keep telling them they can't meet here, they can't meet here, they can't meet here, they might not be so generous with the grant. I don't know. I mean, if there's an organization that's willing to help them out and an organization not willing to help them out, where are those grant funds going to go if it's fully up to the board? I mean, they rank, if the process is still the same as when I was on the board, they rank the applications based on the completeness of the application, how well they think the funds will be spent, what they think the need for those funds are, and they rank the applications that come in, and the highest ones get funding and the lowest ones don't. And so, I mean, I don't know what the subcommittee that's meeting tomorrow is and what it pertains to, but I mean, I think it would be very simple to make a designation in the policy if it is a committee of a board, I mean, if it is a committee of a board that has a council member on it, or a board that benefits the city organizations or things offered by the city. I mean, it's not like it's something completely unrelated to the city. I mean, it helps fund the library and fund the theater and fund other things that the city has under its umbrella. I mean, looking at the big picture, I know I'm not on the council and I will defer to the council, but I mean, there's a practicality and somewhat of a risk.
That's when the mayor thought that it was the big meeting that they're opening up.
I agree with Lauren completely, especially during business hours.
Which I would think that the community foundation wouldn't be as shallow as it goes against city's policy, so they're not going to let us have meetings there. We're not going to fund their grants. I mean, I don't think that they would hold that over us either. I mean, it's.
But it's a thing to work together too. You know,
They want to have the foundation meetings here also.
That's what it's one meeting.
But what was available
Wait a minute, so where do they have the other meeting?
Where do they generally meet?
At the library.
At the library.
So it sounds like he has got some concerns with the library, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
That needs to be. And why can the library not waive their fees for a nonprofit? I mean, I'm not asking you, but I wondered that myself. That seems like something the library could consider doing. The library board, has he talked to them about waiving those fees, you know? I wonder about that.
And I don't even
Well,
know
that's true, but now he does.
I don't know what their policy is for renting the space.
Right.
You need to rent the space for 5 people if it's during business hours.
I
I don't know if
He needs to deal with the library directly anyway.
Yeah.
Right? But as far as our part, I agree with Lauren that if it's during business hours, why is there a problem at all? It's a community-based organization anyway. And then maybe we should get something right eventually.
I think the policy needs to be in writing. I think
Yeah,
any
rules.
and all policies always need to be in
Yeah,
writing.
I think you put it in writing and leave it the way it is for the simple fact that then you're going to have meetings, and you're going to have cleaning, then you're going to, I don't like that. I think you'll have more than, I think there's places for that, and I think the library is it. I think that's the reason they originally set the policy that way, and I think it should stay that way. That can of worms thing, just it goes places you don't expect it to.
They're trying to raise money for 202. You know, that's the whole concept is part of that building too, is to have community buildings there.
Yeah.
So they're not going to end up charging a fee for that.
I'm not speaking at all against this at all. What I'm concerned with is then somebody, well, this is for the community. I just don't.
The banks used to do it, you know, we had a community.
And the library
and
does do it.
We did it free, but, you know, there was a bank employee had to stay and, you know, same type of thing.
I think like you may very well have a valid beef with them, but if the primary foundation meets there and are going to continue to, then the subcommittee should go there. If they were asking for the foundation to be there as the member and wanted this sub-meeting here, I think you should maybe give it consideration, but not in the form it is. He's just angry with them and wants to go somewhere else.
Well, I mean, honestly, if the
Again,
if the
that's my
library,
opinion.
if the library charges
Over it.
$10 and like the Cheyenne Manor charges $25, they're obviously charging a fee for utilities, for cleanup, for, I mean, there's things associated with entities utilizing a meeting space. I think that's why they have.
Yeah, the Scout Hut.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I know, I was gonna mention it, but I mean, it's available, you can waive the fee on it.
That's
whatever.
true.
Yeah.
But
That
this
would
is
be an
really about
option.
his beef with the
Yeah.
library. They're
That's
already
kinda-
meeting there, and I don't think you should give in to a policy.
What
And yes,
are you
we should
looking-
put it in writing, but keep
What?
it
What are
limited.
you
This
just
is the
looking-
council's chambers
Okay.
and the city's interest directly, not subcommittees that don't want to meet where their main committees go.
The Scout Hut would
Yeah, so
be-
that's what I was fixing to say, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously, you can waive fees
Mhm.
for use of the Scout Hut. And I
You
don't
said-
think anybody
It sounded like
needs
you said abuse of.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, it kind of goes
Abuse
hand
of
in
it.
hand, no.
You gotta pay to abuse it.
I'm trying to think what else we
Yeah, I like
have.
that idea too, the Scout Hut. Yeah.
Like I say, I don't care where they have it, but I was just trying to help out because he was telling me, the mayor told him you could have it, and you were calling saying it needed a council member. Okay, I'm on both. I was willing to come.
The mayor was told that it was that big meeting with, and maybe you know what that one's about, where the council's going to be invited and the commissioners would be invited, and that was the impression of what the mayor thought this meeting was. But that's not what this particular meeting, so the mayor
I
was
think
given
they're trying to
permission for
get-
that.
Their information together to bring in the others, the way I understood. So,
So I think there was just miscommunication there about what the meeting was. I don't know.
so they can, yeah.
I would strongly advise you keep it narrow for this place.
I will concur.
Yeah, I think. And if he has additional issues with the library board, I mean, take them up with them first, I guess. I mean, it is a city building, but he needs to go to that board first, and then
Yeah.
if it continues to be an issue, then maybe come back to the city. Yeah.
Yeah, if he doesn't get a satisfactory response from something, yeah.
Do you want this policy in writing, because it would be fairly easy to
Yes.
do? Okay.
If we're going to
Yeah.
stick to it, put it in
Yeah.
writing, make
Yeah.
it very clear, here's the policy instead of, this misunderstanding was based on him thinking it was included in that. We can completely get away from that.
Nip that.
Put it in writing.
Okay. Are you gonna send me, do I need to put the policy in writing, or are you gonna?
Well, I can put it together since I'm familiar
Yeah,
with how
I'm
it
not
has been.
entirely, yeah.
And then I,
Would you send it to me so I can take a look and just make sure that it reads
mhm.
the way I think it should be reading? Because I'm,
Give me a copy, please, so I can input it.
Ah, absolutely.
sorry,
We can be the one presenting it, so.
the policy? I mean, I think I'm gonna present it to the council for final approval before anything else happens. I just want to make sure, because like with the, with the ordinance 625, you know, it's all buildings. I mean, technically all buildings but garages, we needed to add that in there. So that's kind of why I want to see it before it goes to council for approval, just to make sure. I mean, as I stated before, my job is to be Debbie Downer and to nitpick. That's why I'm here.
She's going to keep that can of worms from getting open. It'll be narrow.
My job is to think of the worst thing that could happen and try and scale that back. That's why I'm
So this really actually falls right into place with when we did the LED sign thing, trying to include actually what's good for the city, what's good, what's bad, you know, and it becomes, it just gets wide open. It's just not worth it.
Do you want me to call him in the morning and offer the Scout Hut with the fees waived? Because you waive the fees for like nonprofits like the Girl Scouts and the 4-H clubs for their regular meetings.
For any nonprofit, I think.
I think that's generally it, yeah. It's just, they're basically renting it for their meeting, but at no fees.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah. Before I say that, let me check and make sure there's no Girl Scouts meeting tomorrow from 3:30 to 5. What is tomorrow, Tuesday? I don't know. But if they're not, is that the direction you'd like me to go?
I think we need a motion on that because we're waiving fees.
Yes.
Second by Dara. All in favor?
I think Dara needs to abstain because she's on the community foundation, so
I'll second.
And you can vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Okay, so that was Kale and
Cal, David seconds with the 3, Amanda, Cal, and David vote yes, Dara abstains. Sorry.
Okay, I was just trying to help out somebody else.
Okay. I got, this is from the US Highway 36 travel guide. There's a, I'll just pass this around. They're putting together a travel guide and they want to know if the city wants to purchase an ad. I could send you, I didn't put this letter out there. Maybe I could put the letter out there and this out there and you can think about it and make a decision at the next meeting, whether or not you want to advertise in this guide.
Did they advertise before?
I think this is new. US Highway.
Said they had one before.
It says we are now in the beginning development of our first visitor's guide for the Highway 36 Association. So this is something new, it sounds like.
Yeah, before it was the US 36, what was it called? It was like a little newspaper. Yeah, I think
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
we should do it, I think. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
It'd be great.
What size ad would you like?
Small commercial brochure.
That'd be a couple of pages. Boy, I think that's pricey.
What do we have
In that other one?
the budget for that?
So, quite a bit. That's out of the, that would be out of the transient.
Yeah, the transit tax.
And right now, well, let me look at the budget.
This is a half page there.
In fact, one of the reports that's out on the share, which one was that? Hold on.
Third page, 650, and then it jumps to 1,050.
Let's see here. So, just for that question,
19.
Oh.
But you get a 10% discount
Oh.
if you have the US 36 member association.
so let me point something out to you, Kale, with the question that you just asked. If you go to the share and look at the budgeted funds document, and look at the guest tax fund, it'll show you how much was budgeted for this year and how much we have left. And we have a lot. We have not spent hardly anything out of that fund. So in budgeted funds, it's the guest tax fund. No, page 1. Nope, it says guest tax fund. It's the third one down. And if you look over at the percent used, that's how much of the budget we've used this year, 16.2%. So we've got enough.
Let's say at least half page. It's going to be everywhere on this. It says.
How much is a half page? I'm sure.
50. Yeah, and then if you get 10% discount. Okay,
Well, or the same as brochures and all this stuff we do. Just keeps people looking.
So what are you thinking?
A half page.
motion.
I'll make a motion to do a half page.
Motion by Campbell. Second by Sarah, all in favor?
Okay, we'll get Helen busy. No, this would not be Helen. I'm not sure who this is that I contacted to design it.
Is Elmer involved with that?
He usually, oh, he's not.
US 36 Association.
There was a guy that...
They may not design it, though. I mean, they may just tell you.
That's what I'm wondering. I'll contact these folks and get some more details about how it's designed and stuff, and we'll go
Maybe
from
we can
there.
use a similar layout that Helen already has for that brochure.
Yeah.
Some photos.
Okay.
Something.
All righty. The good news, the budget does not have to be amended. I talked to Angela, and we were thinking because it was a tax, it needed to be budgeted fund, but this is not a levied tax, it's a sales tax. So it does not have to be a budgeted fund. So that's great news. So we can just take the sales tax, and I know, I was puzzled.
Didn't we have something else that we said we were talking about, we'd have to amend the budget anyway? Is that what it was?
We thought we might have to, but the general fund is looking good.
Just rang a bell that we were talking about another
Yeah.
item in that, okay.
Yep, the general fund is looking good. We're not going to go over budget, so there's really no need to amend it. It's not going to be over budget. That's really the only reasons you need to is if you didn't budget for something or if you're going to go over budget somewhere. The only other one would be the special highway, but we don't have to use the special highway funds now that we can do this. The sales tax is there to be used if you have any more projects. Yeah, so that was excellent news. I was very excited about that. Wednesday is Veterans Day, and that is a city holiday, so the city hall will be closed. You guys know. Real quick, I want to just update you on the film crew. If we ever offer the building again, it needs to be very clear that the use of that is during business hours. That was not clear, and they were under the assumption that they could use it whenever they needed it, and all they had to do was let me know to give them access. Problem with that is, as we were just talking, it's my responsibility to make sure this building is secure. So as long as they were over there, I had to be here. And Monday, I thought they were leaving, and I went to ask at 5 o'clock how much longer they were going to be, and we ended up being here till midnight on Monday and 11 o'clock on Tuesday. And I will say I was here Saturday, but that was fine. I had already told them that I knew they wanted to be here on Saturday ahead of time, and I had no issues with that. I was fine with that. It was during the day. The issue I had was I had asked for a production schedule, and they never provided it to me, so I was not prepared for what they were planning. So moving forward, if we ever do that again, we just need to make sure that it's business hours only.
Or they can pay for someone to stand by.
But I'm salaried, so I'm...
Not you, but somebody.
Oh.
They can pay for something.
I would say our employees would probably not be real happy after staying here, but another thing to consider, though, speaking of that, is they did use it for free, but there was no damage deposit had there been damage, which potentially there could have been because they moved a lot of stuff around. That jail cell was filled with stuff. Daryl's desk. Everything was moved. But they did put everything back. So I will say both Monday and Tuesday when they left and I went to make sure everything was secured, both nights the door was left ajar on the side of the building. So had I not been here, it would have been open all night long. So that's just, that's kind of why.
Based on your tone, I'm guessing the likelihood of somebody else doing it.
I'm going to suggest not, but definitely need to make things clear. But they were pleasant people. I mean, they were nice people.
They're going to put you in the movie.
They said they would give me a line in the credits at the end. Like that's going to make up for 17 hours. Anyway, so I just wanted to say that.
Put you on IMDb.
It's not ever going to show up there, do you think? They do promise a premiere here in
Those other
town.
movies are on there.
Are they?
Yep.
Well, then maybe so. Okay, two more things. Real quick, this is a shorter one. You need to ask about Christmas bonuses if you're wanting to do those this year. It's that time of year. I can't believe it. Last year, you did $225 for full-time employees. I think you even did part-time employees. We have some employees who have reached some milestones. In the past, the council had given service awards of $25 for people who met a milestone. Justin and myself, this is our 5th year. Jen is 15. Mike is 25, and of course John is 40. And we did recognize John earlier in the year with a gift certificate, and was supposed to get him a plaque, which then COVID hit, and I didn't get that plaque ordered, but I will get that for him, because I know it's important to him. He likes those things, so I will get that done. But for the other folks who have reached milestones, if you want to do anything, don't have to. Just need to know what's going to do.
Yeah, on the business model, any employees been affected by COVID going away, or is it really hasn't had an effect?
I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
You mean financially over the, yeah.
Do we have the same number of employees?
I think we're down 2 this year over last year. Or 3. All right. We're-
2.5.
Yeah.
Do we have any part-time?
Cody.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
The Christmas bonus was $225 last year.
Last year, yeah. And of course, taxes are taken out of that via the pay. They get issued a check for $225, but the taxes that have to be withheld comes out of that paycheck. So their taxes in that paycheck are higher.
Bonus and a short check.
It comes out to, well, for some of them, it's like $50 for me. My taxes were about $50 more with this bonus. But it's nice. It's very nice. We appreciate it. Everybody appreciates it very much. You know, it's up to you guys. This year with COVID, I don't know if that's, I don't know. It's up to you guys. The Christmas party, we've done different things in the past. We've had a Fresh 7 and for council and employees and their spouses or significant others.
I think we started with that.
I know.
I mean,
What'd you say?
I said it's probably not a great year for that, if nothing else, by messaging.
Mm.
It's probably.
Did you guys spend anything on the party last year?
I'd have to go back and look. Did we have it at your place?
Yeah.
Did we rent your place? I don't think we did. I think it was still open.
I think we were already open. Or did we just not rent it? I don't
I
remember.
think you just put us in the back and other people could... Were we up there? I don't know, actually.
I thought we all sat at that table and tried it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The year before that, we were...
Basically, you probably spent money on
A little bit.
food and stuff
Yeah.
for the party, snacks.
Yeah, I don't know how much. I'd have to go look.
$250 this year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little extra this year.
Yeah.
Have a motion? Is there a second? Second by David, all in favor? That's for all employees?
Full-time.
Full-time.
What about...
Last year,
Part-time.
we did the same last year, didn't we?
Yeah, we did last year, but we didn't do theater because they're kind of like not part-time. They're like
Yeah.
way...
Okay.
But we did we have a part-time? JT was a part-time, yeah, and he did get a bonus last year. So last year...
Like half or something, or I guess, wasn't it?
No, I think last year we gave them all the same. Now, the year before it was, but there was a distinction. But I can go look. If you give me a second, I can go look and see what JT's was, if you want to know last year what he did.
They're just do what we did last year plus 25.
Okay,
Just do that, right?
okay.
Okay, maybe if we did the same last year, we do the same, and if we did half, then decrease it by...
This is just the one part-time.
Yes. Yeah, it's Cody.
That sounds good.
Okay.
That's what it, like, if we did the same last year, do that, and if we did half,
And then
we'll
we'll
have
have
one,
a
just
party.
knock it out
Yeah.
25.
Okay.
Yeah, then probably won't have a party, right? Because everybody will be sick. I hope not.
And do you want to do service awards?
What do we got?
The people?
Yeah, like how much? Like 10-year, 25-year?
So Justin and myself are 5 years, Jen's 15, Mike's 25, and John's 40, but you already recognized John with the $50 earlier in the year in a plaque.
That was for his 40?
Uh,
That was for his 40?
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. But so we've got Justin, me, Jen, and Mike that have,
We've normally done 25, right? for-
yeah, regardless of how many years.
Okay. I have a motion, David. Second. Gail? All right, all in favor? All right.
Okay. And the very last thing, we need to talk a little bit about the Coronavirus Response Act. It's out there on the share. There's the 2 weeks, you guys are probably familiar with the 2 weeks of paid sick leave that employees are entitled to if they are quarantined by order of the health department or a health provider. So if any of our employees have to be quarantined by order, and they provide, I've had a couple of the theater employees who have experienced this. And so they provided a letter from the health department that gave me the dates of the quarantine, and so we paid them whatever they would have earned had they worked, because we have to. The question is, with our employees, technically, there's other parts of that. There's a family medical leave, but all of our other employees are considered essential. So correct me if I'm wrong, Norm, but the federal law is if you are essential, your employer does not have to do that for you if you are quarantined. JR and I have talked about that, and that seems totally not right. And the conversations that we've had at the League in our weekly meetings with many of the clerks is it is truly up to the municipality how they want to handle it. The law doesn't require that you pay if somebody has to be quarantined, but the majority of the consensus is that's the right thing to do, to take care of your employees if they have to be quarantined. So
And the question in that is whether they have to use their accrued sick leave or whether they're paid specifically because of coronavirus like the other federal side of it.
And it's 2 weeks of paid sick leave, the quarantine period, basically, is what they're entitled to.
The bank does that. I mean, I think it's a good thing.
I do too.
Sometimes you're at, the mercy of that paycheck to,
And if they don't have the sick time, then they would be in a world of hurt.
Right.
And our employees are out there doing a great job all the time.
It's a nightmare. You try to go down that road. I just would do the right thing.
I just needed guidance from the council, what you want me to do from a payroll perspective, a human resources perspective. Now, right now, and this is something that we need to talk about, right now the law says if it's a quarantine that's mandated by the health department or your health care provider. JR had some other input on that?
Simply put, early on, we had an individual go, which I thought was, they put themselves in positions, they sent them home and we paid them out of their sick leave. I thought they stepped out of the boundaries of what I said they should do. And in doing that, basically at that time, the way the state was saying it was, if he was within contact or in Kansas City at this time. Now, he was an essential worker, and in my opinion, he put people at risk by doing that. I made him go home, use his sick leave. I still retain what I believe to be by every Monday we talk about whether anybody went anywhere, whether anybody did anything, and decide whether somebody was around, what they did, whether I want them at work. So the question becomes, I'm trying to protect the crew by way of doing this, and we haven't had to do that since that very first time. Everybody's well aware of what my rule is, but in the event, even though it's not mandated, I don't want to wait for 4 days while they found out that exposure while I have somebody rolling around down there, and it's very clear that's the way it is. So as it says, it's based on a quarantine ordered by the local health department. I think that comes too late. I guess the point being is I would like, in a situation where there's an obvious exposure, not to wait for that quarantine, but to be able to just say, you go and we'll pay you to protect the rest of them. That's my opinion. I don't foresee it coming up because everybody's, for the most part, being very careful, and I know that traveling off to one of the hot spots and going burning the cores and coming back to work probably very well. So I'm not worried about needing to do it, but I like the flexibility and into the week. That's why we talk about it on Mondays. See what the day's been. So that wouldn't come up, but I guess I would like to have the ability to do the same thing the health department does if it does.
So here's the question. The only question I had with that is if he were to do that and send somebody home for 4 days, and then the health department quarantines them for another 14 days, are we going to pay him for that entire amount, or is it just the 2 weeks worth of quarantine? So we're going to limit it to 2 weeks regardless of who issues the quarantine order.
All I'm looking for is the flexibility to say, I know you are putting, this puts everybody else at risk and not to your negligence. You go home, and then, that comes up days later. I still think it falls within the deadlines of 2 weeks.
Because at some point with that, they will still have to use some of their own sick time. Okay. I just want to clarify so that I understand where we're at on this.
Again, nobody wants to put anybody in that place.
No.
This is not going to get an argument about it. Everybody wants to protect everybody anyway. I just don't want that to tell somebody, well, it wasn't your fault, go home, I'm going to eat up your sick leave. And then find out days later they should have quarantine. As opposed to, there's nothing I can do, guys. This guy's obviously been exposed, just work with him. That makes no sense to me. So I don't see any big monetary issue for the city. It's just some flexibility.
Right. And then the rest of it had to do with the family medical leave, but I don't think we have anybody that would even apply for that or be eligible for that because it had to do with if you had to stay home with a child because the school was closed or something like that. And we don't believe any of our employees would fall into that. If that situation arises, we'll talk about it, but I don't think we're going to have that. Do you have any input on any of this?
No, I think that you're not doing anything. You're deciding to do what it says. You're not deciding to not do what it says. And,
Actually doing more than
right. I don't know that there's anything that I need to have an opinion on. If you're deciding to follow this, then, like you said, there's additional issues that could come in the event that they needed to care for someone or in the event of school closures. But as that's not currently on the table, I don't think it's anything that needs to be addressed at this time. It's kind of putting the cart before the horse, in my opinion. But as far as if they have to quarantine, you're deciding to pay them for 2 weeks, I don't think that that's...
Do we have a backup plan, JR, if something catastrophic happened and multiple employees became quarantined?
That's kind of the point of trying to be extra.
Keep them safe, yeah.
And it still doesn't mean it happens.
Yeah. And those in my office do have the option to work from home. So I've maintained that. Well, that was all that I had on that. What was that?
Actually, it was like the trash service. Those guys were all a backup plan.
Backup plan to get our trash direction.
That's all I have.
What's that? No, I think I'm good this time. Board Electric completed all the work for the year within the budget constraints that we had set for. I think they did actually a really good job. That's kind of tedious, long-winded work, but they did make a fair amount down the way. They're used to our system through all the material and everything, and I think it will be more efficient going forward. I've talked to JD with Ward about setting up the next budget year for this. I think we did 150 we had talked about doing 200. That's out of capital improvements, so it's not a budget line item. We can do more, we can do less. I talked to Lyle about this. We don't have a cash crunch as far as needing to wait later in the year. A lot of that's probably due to our sales tax revenue. Aside from the fact we do have a significant amount of cash currently. I would strongly suggest we go with the 200,000 minimum and move forward with Board Electric. Their rate may change slightly through next year, but if we could get them in another contract with them starting January 1 and leave them the flexibility to do the work, we can maybe get a little better rate for that way. So I would very much like to go forward. By the way, that wasn't offered by them. I just offered them flexibility of when they do it. I think that works in our favor of working with them. That was not an offer. They just approached me and said that. I would like to go ahead. We're working just dollar figures to see how far we think they could get on $200,000. But I would actually like to commit to doing that much in the next budget year.
We need a motion for that?
I would say, because we would be saying we're going to commit and spend to it, which would mean they would mobilize knowing that is the amount.
So we do it on the project now?
What's that?
Are they doing anything right now on the electrical?
Board?
Yeah.
They just finished.
They just finished?
Just finished, yeah. Wednesday, I think was their last day, last Wednesday.
I noticed, I didn't hear of any outages yesterday.
No. And in fact, the one place, that's why we started that end of 3, we will have outages throughout the years of doing this work if we continue with them, because we just have those weak spots. But as they get identified, and they'll change over time, just because the degradation lines, we'll address those even though it's off the work that we're working on in a straight line, which is more efficient. If we find an area that is of significant weakness, we will just take that labor and get the material in place, switch them to that priority unless it's something we can handle ourselves. And as a crew, they can clean up an alley and fix things when they break, and they rebuild things so they don't.
Yeah. I'll make a motion for 200. Second.
Moved by Cale, seconded by David, all in favor? All right.
Boiler at the power plant, I did get a price on that. I'm asking for some repricing. What they priced was for a full-time power plant. It is way out of line, as far as I'm concerned, with what we could justify putting in if there's some other options, almost $100,000 per boiler. That's a motor rebuild. I mean, that is just, it just seems way out of line. It's got some redundancy in it that I think we could maybe do without. This one went 15 years longer than it should. I mean, I would almost be tempted to come up with something more comparable to this, more than a modern standard, as long as it's allowed, or something like a standby. But what they propose is way beyond what I think we need and or what we can afford. So I'm looking for options on that. I'm going to be working with a local tree contractor on getting some prices to do some work up the roadside park. We've got a lot of tree work to do up there. Some of it's in reference to any area where the dog run is going to go, and also just tree cleanup up there. We had a lot of things identified. I couldn't get the pricing figured out of which each one was doing. I was trying to get that added in when we did this other tree contract. So I'm going to work on getting some pricing on cleaning up the trees up there. And last but not least, I did just texted Brock a little bit ago about that sandblasting for the band shop. Obviously, it's hard to move forward on anything else with that thing the way it is. So hopefully we get somewhere with that. And I've been gone for a couple meetings, so there may very well be questions for me or input. So, what do you want? I think that's the first time I ever missed a meeting. Weird feeling. Okay. If you do, we'll all have my number.
Is that it? I need a motion to accept and file the
The December 28th meeting, I will not be here. I'll try to get out before that, so I'll be in Texas.
What was our next, what about the next meeting? And that's it for me.
I think two days, tomorrow, Santa Claus, we're going to at least have maybe something. I don't know if the city had any input in anything or anything. We're going to keep it very, maybe Santa just comes down on the, like I said, we're going to have ideas, but comes down on the fire truck and people are just downtown, and then maybe we can hand out as, candy bags or something to them. Keep it very COVID. Wave at Santa, kids, you're not going to sit on his lap. So.
About last year when everybody got sick.
I know. But you don't have Santa come to town, but, yeah.
What about a toy drive and just hands out toys?
Yeah, well, we're open for ideas, I think.
Or throw the toys.
Throw the toys, yeah.
That'll knock me out this year.
They're good.
Steel Tonka truck.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, yeah.
Toy drive, though.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
I've asked for 15 minutes of executive session before we get to
Yes.
I know, he's just like getting ready to go, but just so you know. Okay.
I'm not sure we looked at ordinance, as if we looked at them.
Yeah.
And you signed them all, right? So
What's that?
I said you signed them all, so you probably looked through them. Right?
Jared, do you say anything about the tap in my alley? Yeah, good. Yeah.
What was we going to do? Was we going to hammer it, or what was we going to do?
No, looking to possibly putting one.
Your separate tap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that happening?
I mean, yeah, that's what it was. You had said you was going to try that other stuff, and at last resort, get a tap.
Yeah, I have a feeling. Are you there? I think we might need one, but I want to look into just getting a price.
The city just doesn't happen to be $100, but you have to get it excavated and your line run there and everything, all that stuff is all.
Yeah, you mentioned something about digging. Right. Just let me know.
Okay. Do you have anybody lined up?
I probably have to talk to you.
And just
He did matter once.
I'd say
I make a motion. Okay, moved by Darrell,
Second.
seconded by Gail to approve the bills on ordinance 2204. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session? I don't have the courage.
The expert. Amanda's the expert.
Do you want me to phrase it? Somebody say so moved? Amanda, if here's Amanda, would entertain a motion to go into 15 minutes of executive session to come out at 9:20 regarding pending litigation that is subject to attorney-client privilege
With J.R. and Lila.
with J.R. and Lila.
And all present.
Moved by Gail. Second by Darrell. All in favor? All right.
Okay, one moment.
All right, no decisions made. Executive session, so
Okay.